So I just want to say good afternoon to our Inspire Answers radio listeners. You're tuned into Inspire Exclusive with me and Nadia-Toni Jacobs. She is a resident counselor at Balpoint Primary. This week we have a special guest. Her name is Paola. She is an expert and she's also a psychologist, but later on she'll introduce herself and tell us what her field is in expertise. So this week we're talking about human trafficking. In 2025, trafficking is a person's report, provides the following stats. Identified victims, the government's identified that there are 234 victims to care for. That is down from 291 in the previous period, and this is in the 2024 financial year. These included 7 victims of labor trafficking, 66 of sexual trafficking, and 161 of unspecified forms. The conviction rate of this is very low. Only 27 traffickers were convicted, up from 12 in the previous period, but that is still very low in my eyes. Prosecutions initiated of 57 suspects. That is down from 123. This is in South Africa specifically. Um, how they get investigated, only 13 trafficking cases have been investigated in the period of 2024, and out of the cases, that is 156. South Africa is deemed one of the highest, or one of the highest countries that also is seen as a trafficking hub. This can also be from our past during the India Dutch company that used South Africa as a port for slavery. Um, so we have a very deep-rooted history when it comes to slavery and how people get transported all over the world. Um, yeah, so we don't have a very good history in terms of that. So I just want to welcome our guests. I want to welcome, well, Nadia is my co-host. Welcome Nadia and welcome Paola.
Hi
Thank
there.
you.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. So the statistics is also only on reported cases. There's a lot of things that happen that doesn't get reported, and that's why we can't always trust stats because stats is only the things that where people have reported it, and there's a lot of things that fall under the cracks and then no one ever knows about. So if Nadia can just give her statistics because she's focused on Africa. I was focused on South
Okay,
Africa,
so
yeah.
so basically we need to recognize that, these doesn't just include child trafficking. It includes organ trafficking. It includes recruitment, inter-regional, cross-the-border trafficking. So there's quite a lot of trafficking with regards to human trafficking, and I'm sure that Paola will emphasize that. But just quickly, I'm just going to go over Africa. So, an estimated 7 million are living in modern day slavery in Africa. This was 2021 stats. So, that is 5.2 per thousand people, which is very high. This is the fourth highest rate globally. However, Ilham, gave us was it the 2024 stats
Mm-hmm.
currently on
Yes.
that? So that means it's obviously escalated. And then we have forced labor, which is the most common form of exploitation in Africa. That is 3.8 million. Can you believe that? Many of our Africans are trafficked to other regions, such as the Gulf states, with the promise to work. That in itself, I think there's a lot of emphasis on exploitation with regards to slavery and forced labor as well. So, in many parts of Africa, the majority of traffic victims are children, which I'm hoping that Paula will elaborate on, because this is a big thing currently in our country. Um, com- Continued among these stats are the, like I said earlier, the inter-regional cross-border trafficking, recruitment, promises of education or better education and employment, human trafficking for organs, and child trafficking. The people generally that investigates this is the UNODC, so that is United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So they are generally the ones that investigate these trafficking situations. Uh, Child trafficking also involves the use of kids for exploitation, which is a severe violation to human rights. This includes drugs, sex, labor, and things like begging on the street and petty crimes. That is part of the exploitation of children, child marriage, and illegal adoption. And the last point is in 2020, nearly 20,000 children worldwide were identified as trafficking victims. I'm blown away by the stats. But I'll hand over to Paola from here.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for inviting me. As you heard, my name is Paola Saez. I lived in Cape Town for many years. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been. I'm currently staying in Europe, in Spain, for the last 3.5 years. And sadly to say, we have exactly the same problem here, where we are the ones who receive the people trafficked. And Spain is like a port area where then it's distributed to the rest of Europe. I would like to give the official definition of what human trafficking is, so we all understand what it entails. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat, use of force, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability for the purpose of exploitation. So when we have all of these, it's a really wide meaning, because it's almost like when we say all roads lead to Rome, there are many ways of trafficking somebody. You can prey on their vulnerability, even to the families, like, for instance, with their children. Many cases when there is extreme poverty, that child becomes the means for supplying food or money for the household. So you need to start accommodating your mind to accept this as a good thing. You see, the child is helping us to survive. The child is bringing what we as adults are unable to do because we don't get jobs. But because of his characteristics of being a child, of his innocence, we close our eyes, the need is greater, the stomach is hurting, so then let's use this. You see, vulnerability. And I think that a lot is preyed on that. One of the things that we mention in this field is, while there is still a demand, there will be somebody who will supply, because it becomes a business. It is not seen as a crime. It is seen as a business. You see, it's supplying a need. And I think that one of the biggest struggles that we're facing is to change the mindset on that. Like, for instance, when we talk to the families of those who commit crime and they end up in jail because of these crimes, whichever, robbery, assault, etc., the families normally say, my child is working. They don't see it, my child is committing a crime. Their mentality is my child is working. So we need to tap not only onto the people that are doing this, the traffickers, because for them they're supplying a need. It's like any other job. And this is where we tap into ethics and moral. You see, what we understand as moral, which is a collective understanding of values, in certain areas of society, that moral is different to ours. So I know I'm talking about the root of the problem, how everything started. Then they start accommodating their way of thinking. And in the end, they're almost like they're doing good because they're providing a service. It's like if you hear the interviews with a pedophile, they say, I'm loving the child. This is my way of expressing love. So how, I mean, for me, when I was reading about this, I was thinking, how do we solve this? What do we do? How do we start changing our speech? And having lived in South Africa, I think that one of the biggest problems that we have, and that's why it's such a fertile ground for this, is the vulnerability on people's lives.
Yeah.
More than any other thing. They come to Europe like the American dream, they come to the European dream until they get here and they realize that, first of all, there is no dream at all. You've got to work as hard as in any other place, and you've got to find your position in the society like in any other country. I mean, if we talk about Spain, the area where I'm staying, which is the north of Spain, we are the highest. We're number one in regarding the rest of Spain in four very important things: suicide rate, divorce rate, digital pornography, and abortion. So what does it tell you? That in the end, it is the heart. We're talking about that. It is a heart. It's a human mentality. No matter where you set yourselves, the emotions, the psychological aspect carries within you. So that vulnerability that the society has, how can we change it? I want to open the floor for that. How can we start helping people to stop seeing themselves as vulnerable, although they are vulnerable? And before we go there, I want to read something to you that I think is very interesting. This is WHO, the World Health Organization, defining what quality of life is. And it says, quality of life is an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live and in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. I'm going to read it again. Quality of life is an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live and in relation to their goals, expectations, standards, and concerns. So quality of life is an individual perception. When you look at yourself, do you feel you have quality of life? Because we need to start helping people to move away from that feeling of, I am so vulnerable, I am unable to do anything for myself, I'm at the mercy of. That if we start shifting them into quality of life is how you perceive your own life. It will make you to start moving into becoming an agent of change on the things that you can change within the environment you have. So I want to open the floor. What do you think about what I have said?
I want to ask you two questions. The first would be you were speaking earlier about how there is a need and so there is a supplier. And I know there was a case in India where they had slavery, and when the people ran away from the slave owners, they never got punished. And so then they would just start over and collecting new people to be their slaves. But once the law changed and the people started going to jail, they changed their behavior. So your behavior is also all behaviors learn behavior. And once something is normalized, then you think it's normal. So like
Mm.
if we're looking at how to eradicate human trafficking in any form or all forms, then wouldn't it be to punish the people that are purchasing these things? If you making a supplier because you don't want to do it yourself, you want someone else to supply girls, you want someone else to supply organs, you want someone else to supply children or maids or slaves, then you have to look at how to punish the perpetrator. And then we have to obviously go into law and create policies and to put these people behind bars because most of the time they're very powerful people and they get away with these things. So then we have to all collectively choose to punish them because they have to be punished because most of them know what they're doing is wrong. So how do we do that collectively? And like, yeah, that would be my question to you. And then my second question would be, when it comes to, you were talking about quality of life. When it comes to quality of life, I think most women don't have access to education further than primary school, and most women don't have access to money. So they don't have access to resources, they don't have access to money, they don't have access to the like we don't have access to that as maybe certain parts of the world, like most women don't have access to that. So like how do we change that perception? Because once you grow up in an environment where somebody says, no, but that's not your place, that's a man's job. It's not your place as a woman, you must be in the kitchen. Like that is what most of us were brought up believing because a man told us that almost on a daily basis. Your job is to raise the children, your job is to stay in the kitchen, your job isn't to worry about money. And women nowadays, especially the younger generation, are starting to realize that no, but I want access to money, I want access to resources. So how do um we all know what needs to be done, but why is there this difficult of a shift to start to implement these changes? Is also what I want to ask you from a psychology point of view.
I think that what
Ilham,
we, yes, go ahead, Nadia.
what I just wanted to say, maybe just from my point of view,
Mm-hmm.
the black market, okay, like what Paola was explaining, the need, supplying a need. The black market is so huge, and these people are driven not by the average person or the
Mm,
average seller. They are driven by people that has conglomerates, that's got money to throw around. They just sitting there waiting for the victim to arrive. You know, their hands don't get dirty, and that is why it makes things so difficult because the justice system is only getting the people that is starting the actual trafficking process and not getting to the people that is at the end of it, that's receiving the humans. You know, I don't know, that's just my my part, my thinking in it, you know. And also with trafficking, I think that unlike grooming a victim, like Paola says, they act on the vulnerabilities, and this is how, um, they grab the kids, but they don't have the time to actually groom them like um, a pedophile or a psychopath that's going to sit and watch for 3 months and learn the patterns and then decide when they're going to strike. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yes, I mean, to answer the first one, with this, the need and demand of the need and supplying the need, that's how they see it. Okay, those who are doing it, that's how they justify it. That's why organizations who deal with this they have a really key role within society because let us be honest, we might not be able to tap into everything, but we can start with a society that is on this end so that
Mm,
they don't become so vulnerable that they will end up being trafficked. I think that that is one of the solutions, that we start training and educating the people in the schools, going to the communities, using different centers where we start educating them on the signs, on what to look for into. I like what South Africa says, it takes a whole village to raise a child. But let's say that it takes a whole village to keep that child safe, so that together we can see the signs. But if people don't know what to look for, they will miss the signs. And I think that the organizations can tap into that with their lawyers and see, because I agree. Yet you will be tapping into the parents who provide that child to be trafficked. So the scope is very wide. And I think that the law is limited in getting access to only one section, because it will be far too broad to try to tap into everything like this. Yet, like for instance, if we can help the parents to understand that there are other ways of supplying for their home, and providing that channel where they can improve themselves with their quality of life, like money, to be able to survive, in the basic things. But then you tap into something that is really what I wanted to go into. How do we keep our children safe from the door of our home in? Because we're talking about keeping them safe from the door of our home out. But what about within the house? And you said something very important. What about the women that for so long they were told this is all you can be? But yes, I would say that society has changed we now talk about human trafficking. It has been happening for many years, but now we have associations, we have organizations, NPOs. We promote, we talk about it. There is a floor where a platform we can share openly, like this one, what it is about, what is it that we should do, etc. And the same for the other one. We are talking now that women don't belong only in the kitchen, that we don't only belong in the in raising the kids, that if we have much more to contribute than that, which is an amazing work. To raise children is an amazing work. I'm a mother of 3. Nadia is a mother of 2, and it is tough. It is difficult to raise children and to make adults of them. Yet that's not all we can offer, because by improving ourselves, we can also show them that although for a while we went this direction, until knowledge came into our lives and we made a turn. And if I think when I studied psychology, social psychology, I was 44 years old.
Really?
I'm now in Spain. I'm studying again psychology, clinical psychology, because I want to become a health psychology, how your body gets affected. But I'm 55. So what does it tell you? It's never too late. At the moment you realize, oh, wow, I can do this. There is something else for me there. You've got to embrace that opportunity. So society is talking about gender-based violence. It's talking about what is the right way of treating you, what it is power, how abuse is supported on power and control. So now there is many more opportunities for us to realize I can do something about it. Mandela was big on education. I really like that man. He was huge on education. He said it was a basic human right for people to be educated and for our children to go for education. But we as women can also set the path for our children and those around us, that we somewhere in your life, you've got to make a stop and ask yourself, where do I want to go? So how do we keep our children safe within our home? For us to open our eyes, For us to see this is my reality, we call it to do a good, proper reading of reality. What do I have? Where am I? What would I like to do? And to start working towards that. Communicate with others. Talk to people. South Africa has got many, many places where you can phone and say, where do I start? Many people, even today, they still ask me from South Africa, how do I start? And I always say from the beginning, what is it that you want to do? Start one step at a time, just one step at a time. That's how we keep our children safe. Because if I understand this, my speech towards my children will start changing. I will see them. I remember one mother came to me and said, no, I'm raising my kids for them to support me when I'm old.
Sure.
That's why I'm raising my children now. And I thought, well, it's for the sake of her kids. It will be important that she start changing her mindset now. Because one thing is love and respect, yes. But to become dependent on your children. Am I making sense? Do you understand everything that it entails? Why we land up in human trafficking? With this needy...
I was going to say to you now, Paola, that that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. The mindset needs to be changed. And like with my NPO, my slogan is each one, teach one. So, every one person knows 10 people. You teach one person, they can go and teach 10 other people. But it does, it's got to be a shift in the mind. It's got to be a shift in the mind. And little things like negative words, and replace them with other words. Little things like, don't say stupid, say silly. These just little things that one can change, which changes the complete mindset. And you have to start at the bottom. That's where you need to start.
And you know why we went into this topic? Because by the time that child or that person is trafficked, it's too late. We need to start mobilizing to rescue. And I think that my personal goal today is that people understand that we need to start keeping our relatives, because these people are the relatives of somebody, our relatives, safe before that happens, and not to start mobilizing organizations and the police to go to the rescue. Let us rather keep them here. You see, it is good that we have all that in place when it does take place. But for me, it's always the prevention. Nadia knows me. Let's prevent it. So then we're not sorry after that. We don't have to receive a child. I always say to the people, because we dealt with this with Nadia, the child that left is not the same child that comes back.
No, most
And you've got to deal with a different person now, with the trauma. And I'm like, I'm rather go, I don't want to be running after the ball. I will rather go before the ball. And that's why I like to keep talking to people about, like, how can we prevent it? How can we start teaching the people, okay? Like, for instance, if you're vulnerable and they're showing you this amazing job in Europe or in America, not everything that shines is gold. Ask questions. Find out. They're very well prepared. They even have web pages, get references, ask around. Don't just jump in front of the opportunity and say, wow, what an opportunity. No, because not everything is true. And you have the right to ask for questions. I had people from Latin America that came here and they were trafficked because they said that here they were going to study to become teachers. And I look at them and I said, and your country doesn't teach that profession? Why did you need to come and study it here? And they said to me, well, because it's a better opportunity. What did they offer you? And they couldn't say. You see, it is good to go overseas to study. You've had the opportunity, go for it. But go to established universities.
Mm.
You can Google them, and then you can see their track record, to how many foreign students they have. And I can assure you, they will always ask you for some money you need to put. Even if they give you a scholarship, when it comes to the visa, they will give you the letters, but you need to run with all the expenses that come with the visa, for instance. So we need to train them to ask the right questions and not just to believe everything that is said to them, jump into a plane and then land trafficked.
Yeah, Paola, we're coming to the end of our show, but I just want to ask you if you can just give us some red flags because we have an organization in South Africa, it's called 821, and they have a list of things that you need to look out for. So I just want you to give from your perspective like some red flags that if you see this kind of behavior that you should maybe go report it to 821, for example, or to the police or wherever you have access to. But also I just want to ask you like um, how do you feel about these very powerful people? Because I know the news just broke of Prince Andrew that had to give up his titles now in the United Kingdom because he's kind of complicit in the sex ring with when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein case that's based in America. And these powerful people, like the consequences never get to them. Like, no one is talking about prison time, no one is talking about a full investigation. He just had to give up his titles. So we must also understand that these people are very, very powerful and they are very, very rich. And this girl that released her book, her name is Virginia Giuffre, and she passed away and then her book got published. It's called Nobody's Girl. So she talks about her experience within a sex ring where she was passed around from country to country, from a rich businessman to rich businessman, and she was used for sex. And like to an extent where she was like damaged, her vagina was damaged. She was like abused while she was because they play out their fantasies with these girls once they groom them. And so what I want to ask you is say you see something or you see somebody and you're not sure if they're okay. What are the red flags to look out for? And like in South Africa, you can report them to 821, which is a victim-based organization where they take care of the victim afterwards. But like where do you go? So what do you look for and where do you go?
Well, there is always signs of abuse. You can understand that abuse does not only, I would say that being trafficked is like the end of the tail in the because there is many steps that take a person to get there to submit herself to this kind of where the person feels there is nothing else that I can do to keep myself safe. So there are many signs, especially in children, like in women, for instance, the WHO made a very good study on how the body gets affected when there is abuse. Okay, the signs that are there. Um, most of the chronic sicknesses are telling us is the body screaming that there is something going on. In the children, it's exactly the same. You will hear them saying, I've got headaches. They will start peeing on their beds. That is giving us all the signs that there is abuse. They will be changing behavior. For instance, they will become either more violent or they will go extremely quiet. Why it's important to see these signs beforehand? Because it's a road towards. By the time, for instance, one of the things that we parents normally do to be polite to the adult is not to allow the child not to greet, for instance. And one of the things we are saying now, if the child doesn't want to relate to the adult, there is a red flag. Because in general, children are very friendly. And when they don't want to go towards that person, there is a red flag. It could even be your best friend, but your child came out of you. So when you've got to pick, you know who to pick, who to choose. Why I'm saying this, and we need to start seeing the early signs for that. So because if you start teaching your child to submit to agree to say yes all the time. If somebody comes and wants to take that child, because this is what they're doing now, they're normally grabbing them from the street because it's cheaper. It will be used to say yes. It will not kick, it will not scream, it will not make sound or noise for people around us to see. There is a sign of now with a hand going like this.
Mm.
It's being
Mm.
promoted all over the world. But for people, when we see that, they've tried in social psychology, they've done these social experiments, and they've had people doing this, and nobody has reacted, for instance. So it's both ways to see this, the early signs. Like if I teach my child that if this is happening to you, first of all, you don't have to go. Two, you can say, wait, I need to ask for permission, to have a voice to say, no, it's okay. But let us say it happens. This sign, it can also help. But if the society doesn't know what to do, you said it, there is a number where we can call. Part of the experiment was for people to react and pretend to be the friend of or a relative, hack the person and take it away. You see, that's another way. But again, I go beyond we need to teach those kids, those youngsters, those women that it's okay, that you're not failing society, that you're not being unpolite when you say, no, I don't want this, or I won't go there, or I don't want to relate to that person. I just don't feel comfortable. It's okay.
Thank you so
And
much.
to
We're
embrace that.
coming to the end of our time. We've less than a minute. I just want to thank our guest, Paola Saez
Mhm.
and Nadia-Toni
Yes.
Jacobs for your time. We definitely can have another discussion about this because I feel like you can contribute so much to South African society. And I think it's also about information. Many people don't have access to internet. Many people don't have access to videos. Like most people just listen to radios in rural areas. So it's also about access to information. So that is also why, like, maybe not everybody knows the sign because they've never seen it and then they don't know what to do with it. So
Mm.
we definitely need
Mm.
to have girl children and everybody in South Africa to have access to information and just the right to know.